Dr. Hannah Park's hands trembled as she carefully brushed dust from the metallic surface. The afternoon sun of planet XC394 beat down on her environmental suit, making sweat trickle down her back. After 3 long years of digging through the ruins of what appeared to be an ancient alien civilization, her team had finally found something that might justify the enormous expense of their expedition. The object gleamed despite millennia of burial, its strange angular patterns catching the light in ways that seemed almost deliberate. Hannah had seen enough artifacts to know this was different. This wasn't merely decorative or structural. This was technology. "Director Kim, you need to see this," she called, trying to keep her voice professional despite her excitement. Director Jin Kim was across the excavation site supervising another team. When he heard Hannah's call, he quickly made his way over, his movements awkward in the bulky protective gear. His normally serious face showed rare curiosity as he approached. "What have you found?" he asked, kneeling beside her. Hannah gestured to the object. "I believe it's a data storage unit of some kind. The architecture suggests it was the central archive for this settlement. Look at these connection points. They're similar to the energy conduits we found in the eastern quadrant." Jin studied the object carefully. "Are you certain? This could be just another piece of their building material." "No, sir. The composition is different. The sensors are picking up trace energy signatures. Whatever this is, it still has power, after all this time." Jin's eyes widened. "Extraordinary. Let's get it back to the lab immediately." Extracting the device proved challenging. For 4 days, the team worked carefully, using specialized tools to free the object without damaging either it or potentially connected systems. The alien material resisted their standard extraction methods, forcing them to develop new techniques on the spot. Back at the research station, the mood was tense with anticipation. Engineer Tae Lee, the team's technology specialist, had been working non-stop to establish an interface with the alien device. The station's main lab had been cleared of all other projects, with all resources dedicated to the mysterious find. "I've managed to convert the power source to something compatible with our systems," Tae explained as Hannah and Jin entered the lab on the 7th day. "And I think I've created a rudimentary translation matrix based on the symbols we've cataloged throughout the site." The device now sat connected to a complex array of equipment. Soft lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that seemed almost like breathing. "Can you access its contents?" Jin asked. "Partially," Tae replied. "Most data blocks are corrupted or use encoding systems I can't decipher yet. But I've managed to extract fragments." He tapped commands into his console, and strange symbols appeared on the main screen. They shifted and rearranged as the translation program worked. "It appears to be some kind of historical record," Tae continued. "Times, locations, events. This civilization was meticulous in their documentation." Hannah leaned forward, fascinated. "Do we know what happened to them? Why they disappeared?" Tae shook his head. "Not entirely, but there's something odd about the final entry." He pointed to a line of text that had just finished translating. "It's dated just before all records stop. According to our best calculation, that would be approximately 50,000 years ago." Hannah leaned closer to read the translated text. The last words recorded in the database read simply, "They never even took us seriously." A chill ran through the room despite the climate controls. "What does it mean?" Jin asked, voicing what they all were thinking. Hannah's mind raced with possibilities. A civilization advanced enough to create technology that survived for millennia, vanished suddenly, with only these cryptic words left behind. Who hadn't taken them seriously? Was it a threat they had warned others about? A discovery they had made? Or something else entirely? "I don't know," Hannah replied finally, determination settling over her features. "But I intend to find out." As darkness fell outside the research station, the 3 scientists continued working. The ancient device occasionally emitted soft sounds, almost like whispers in a language long dead. Deeper in the database, more fragments waited to be discovered, pieces of a puzzle that might reveal the fate of an entire civilization. And perhaps, Hana thought as she reviewed the translated fragments. A warning for humanity as well. 6 months had passed since the discovery of the alien database. The research station on XC-394 had tripled in size. New modules housed additional scientists, powerful computing systems, and specialized equipment. The United Earth government had finally recognized the importance of Dr. Hana Park's discovery and approved her requests for expanded resources. The main research hall buzzed with activity as specialists from various fields worked to decode the ancient knowledge. Hana had barely slept in weeks, driven by an almost desperate need to understand the civilization that had left behind such cryptic final words. She stood now before the large display wall where the team tracked their findings. Fragments of alien, text scrolled alongside translated versions, images of structures and technology and timelines that stretched back over 100,000 years. "We've confirmed they called themselves the Siraxians," said linguist Day Song, approaching with a tablet in hand. His eyes were red-rimmed from lack of sleep, but excitement animated his tired features. "Their language has 15 vowel sounds and a complex tonal structure, but we're making good progress." Historian Jun Choi joined them, carrying cups of steaming coffee. He handed one to Hana, who accepted it gratefully. "The Siraxians achieved space travel approximately 200,000 years ago," he said. "Their civilization spread across 12 star systems at its peak. And then suddenly vanished 50,000 years ago," Hana added, sipping her coffee. "We need to know why." Director Jin Kim entered the hall, accompanied by Tae Lee. Both looked serious, but excited. "We've managed to decode a significant portion of their diplomatic records," Jin announced. "The Siraxians weren't alone in this part of the galaxy." Day nodded eagerly. "They encountered another spacefaring species about 52,000 years ago. The Siraxians called them the Vorathi." "Show me," Hana said, placing her coffee down. Tae tapped commands into the central console. The main screen displayed images of sleek curved vessels that looked dramatically different from the angular Siraxian designs they had already documented. According to these records, the Siraxians attempted peaceful contact. Day continued, pointing to lines of translated text. "They sent diplomatic vessels bearing gifts and knowledge. But the Vorathi dismissed them," Jun added, his face grim. "From what we can tell, the Vorathi were an older spacefaring race. They considered the Siraxians primitive despite their technological achievements." "Primitive? How could they think that?" Hana asked, scanning the records. "The Siraxian technology, we've found, is incredibly advanced even by our standards." "Different values," Jin suggested. "The Vorathi appear to have prized biological and genetic advancement over mechanical or computational technology." Hana scrolled through the reconstructed records, pausing on an entry that contained images of what looked like massive energy, distortions in space. "What's this?" "The translation reads something like the Great Devourer or the Endless Hunger." Jun stepped closer to examine it. "That entry is dated about 51,000 years ago, just before their civilization disappeared. The Siraxians discovered something, a cosmic threat of some kind," Hana said slowly, enlarging the images. "These energy patterns, they don't match any known natural phenomenon. And look here." Day pointed to another entry. "Records of diplomatic missions to the Vorathi, carrying data about these anomalies. They tried to warn them." "Who ignored them?" Jin concluded grimly. "The Vorathi dismissed the warnings as primitive superstition or faulty science. That explains their final message in the database." "They never even took us seriously," Hana whispered, feeling a chill run down her spine. "They knew something was coming, something dangerous." Tae, who had been quiet until now, suddenly looked up from his console. His face had gone pale. "There's more," he said, his voice tight. "I've been working on decoding the technical sections of the database. The Siraxians didn't just warn others, they prepared." His fingers flew over the keyboard, bringing up new schematics on the main display. Complex diagrams appeared, showing what looked like massive energy generators and orbital installations. "The Siraxians developed defensive technology," Tae continued. The plans are still in the database, along with theoretical models and test results. The room fell silent as the implications sunk in. Hana stepped closer to the display, her heart pounding. If the threat they discovered is still out there, we need to understand this technology, Jin said firmly. And we need to determine if the threat they identified still exists. Hana nodded slowly, studying the ancient plans with growing unease. Whatever destroyed an entire advanced civilization might still be out there. And like the Varathi, we might not see it coming until it's too late. Unless, Tay said quietly, we listened to what the Siraxians were trying to tell us. The gray conference room in the United Earth Defense Headquarters felt cold despite the 20 people packed inside it. Dr. Hana Park stood at the projection screen, her usually neat appearance now disheveled after 3. The anomaly has grown by 17%, Yoon reported, highlighting measurements on the display. Its rate of expansion is increasing. At current progression, it will reach the outer planets in approximately 4 months. Admiral Yu, a stern woman with short gray hair and decades of space fleet experience, leaned forward in her chair. Her weathered face showed growing concern as she studied the images. And you're certain this matches the threat described in the Siraxian records? She asked, her voice measured but tense. Hana stepped forward. Yes, Admiral. We've compared the energy signatures from our deep space probes with the Siraxian data. They are identical in pattern and frequency. What we're seeing is exactly what they documented 50,000 years ago. She brought up side-by-side comparisons showing waveform patterns that matched perfectly. We need to take action, Hana continued. The Siraxian records show this anomaly consumed 2 of their colony systems before they recognized the pattern. By then it was moving too quickly for them to evacuate their core worlds. Defense Minister Park, a heavy-set man with a permanently skeptical expression, snorted dismissively. Based on alien folklore, these so-called records could be anything: fiction, religious texts, misinterpreted data. We need concrete evidence before allocating resources to this theory. Several military officers nodded in agreement. Hana felt a surge of frustration that had been building for weeks. She slammed her fist on the table, causing everyone to jump. The Varathi said the same thing, she exclaimed. 6 months after dismissing the Siraxians' warning, their entire civilization was obliterated. 12 billion lives lost because they were too proud to listen. The room fell silent. Even Minister Park seemed taken aback by her outburst. Dr. Park, he said stiffly, emotional appeals aren't helpful. Neither is willful ignorance, Hana interrupted. The mathematics are clear, the physics are clear. Whatever this anomaly is, it's growing, it's approaching, and it matches precisely with what destroyed 2 advanced civilizations. She brought up new images, these reconstructed from the Siraxian database. They showed planetary systems being enveloped in darkness, stars dimming, and finally, complete emptiness where vibrant worlds had once existed. Admiral Yu studied the images in silence for a long moment. Finally, she turned to Minister Park. I understand your concerns, Minister, but consider the risk assessment. If Dr. Park is wrong, we waste some resources. If she's right, and we do nothing. She let the implication hang in the air. Minister Park frowned but remained unconvinced. The United Earth Council won't approve massive defensive measures based on ancient alien records, regardless of how compelling Dr. Park finds them. Then let us prove it conclusively, Admiral Yu suggested. I'll assign a scout ship to investigate the anomaly directly. Meanwhile, we can begin preliminary research into the defensive technologies Dr. Park's team has uncovered. The minister considered this compromise, then nodded reluctantly. Very well. But I want daily reports, and at the first sign this is a wild goose chase, funding stops. Agreed, Admiral Yu said firmly. I'll present your findings to the United Earth Council with my recommendations. In the meantime, continue your analysis, Dr. Park. We need to understand exactly what we're facing and how to counter it. The meeting adjourned, with military personnel breaking into smaller groups to discuss next steps. Hana gathered her materials, her hands trembling slightly from both exhaustion and tension. Yoon approached, speaking softly so only Hana could hear. They're making the same mistake, aren't they? just like the Varathi. Hana watched Minister Park, leaving with his aides already arguing about budget constraints and reassigning resources from other projects. History repeats itself, Hana replied grimly. Unless we break the cycle. As they walked from the conference room, Admiral Yu caught up with them. Dr. Park, a moment please. Yoon continued ahead while Hana stopped. I believe you, the Admiral said simply. I've faced enough unknowns in space to recognize when something doesn't fit our understanding of the universe. Thank you, Hana said, relief washing over her. Don't thank me yet, Admiral Yu warned. We have an uphill battle, but I'm assigning my best ships and crews to this investigation, and I want your team to start adapting those Siraxian defensive plans for our technology immediately. Don't wait for official approval. Hana nodded. We'll need access to the quantum physics labs and the orbital construction platforms. You'll have it, Admiral Yu promised. Whatever this thing is, we won't let it take us by surprise. Unlike the Varathi, we will listen. As Hana watched the Admiral walk away, she felt the weight of 50,000 years of history on her shoulders. Would humanity prove wiser than those who came before? Or would Earth become just another empty space in the cosmic graveyard? The emergency lights cast an eerie red glow throughout the command center. Screens lining the walls showed the same terrifying image from different angles, a vast darkness approaching Earth like a storm cloud from nightmares. 3 months had passed since the initial warning meeting, but the United Earth Council had only authorized full deployment of Project Guardian after witnessing the horror firsthand. 2 weeks ago, the research outpost on Neptune's moon Triton had gone silent. The final transmission showed the darkness sweeping over the facility, not destroying it, but somehow removing it from reality itself. 17 researchers simply ceased to exist, along with their buildings, equipment, and a chunk of the moon's surface. After that, even Minister Park had stopped arguing against the project. Now humanity raced against time, deploying technology they barely understood in a desperate bid for survival. Engineer Tae Lee hadn't slept in days. His normally immaculate appearance had given way to wrinkled clothes and uncombed hair. He stood in the orbital construction bay, directing teams as they assembled the final pieces of the massive Siraxian device. Dr. Hana Park floated toward him in the low gravity, followed by Director Jin Kim. Both wore the worried expressions that had become standard for Earth's leadership. Progress report? Hana asked, her voice hoarse from too many briefings. Tae gestured to the enormous ring-shaped structure. Workers in spacesuits crawled over it like ants, connecting cables and aligning delicate components. We're at 92% completion, he said. The energy core is stable and the quantum resonators are aligned. We've had to substitute some materials, but the basic principles remain intact. Hana nodded, studying the strange geometric patterns etched into the device's surface. They reminded her of the original database they'd discovered so many months ago. Will it work? Jin asked the question everyone feared to voice. Tae ran a hand through his messy hair. In theory, yes. The Siraxian calculations were precise. Their technology is elegant, he told Hana. But it's not a weapon as we understand it. Then what is it? Asked Jin, confusion evident in his tired eyes. Tae paused, searching for simple words to explain the complex concept. It's more like a communication device, but on a quantum level. Communication? Jin looked skeptical. We're trying to communicate with that thing? He pointed to a nearby screen showing the approaching darkness, now visibly distorting the stars around Neptune's orbit. The Siraxians believe that what we're seeing isn't a natural phenomenon or even a weapon, Hana explained. They theorized it was a form of consciousness, but one so alien that its very presence disrupts our reality. Their records suggest they were developing this technology when they disappeared, Tae added. We're essentially completing their work, eh? Voice came over the comm system. Dr. Park, Admiral Yu requests your presence in the command center immediately. The orbital shuttle ride back to Earth took 90 tense minutes. When they arrived, the command center was in controlled chaos. Admiral Yu stood at the central console, her uniform crisp despite the circumstances. The anomaly has accelerated, she said without preamble. New projections indicate it will reach Earth in 72 hours, not the week we expected. Murmurs spread through the room. Someone dropped a tablet with a clatter. Will the system be ready? Admiral Yu asked directly, her eyes locked on Tay. Tay exchanged a glance with Hana before answering. We'll need every hour of those 72, but yes, we can activate before impact. It has to be, Hana said, studying the pulsing mass on the main view screen. Humanity doesn't have a second chance. The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Sleep became a luxury no one could afford. Evacuation plans were finalized, though everyone knew there was nowhere truly safe to go. The darkness had already consumed 4 outer system outposts and was moving faster with each passing hour. Finally, the moment arrived. The Siraxian device, a massive ring now in orbit around Earth, was complete. Tay sat at the control station, his fingers dancing over the interface as he initiated the startup sequence. Power at 60%, 80%, 100%, he called out. Quantum field stabilizing. On the screens, they could see energy fields beginning to form around the planet, spreading like a delicate web from the orbital ring. The approaching darkness was now visible to the naked eye, a void against the stars that seemed to swallow light itself. Alignment complete, Tay announced. Initiating quantum resonance in 3, 2, 1. He pressed the final command. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the energy field pulsed, sending waves of blue-white light out toward the approaching darkness. When they made contact, something unexpected occurred. Instead of the hoped-for barrier, tendrils of energy formed between Earth and the void, creating bridges of light across the emptiness of space. What's happening? Demanded Admiral Yu. Is it working? Tay stared at his readings in astonishment. Yes, but not how we anticipated. The field isn't repelling the entity, it's establishing a connection. It's working, whispered Yoon, who had been monitoring the quantum readings. But not how we expected. The darkness slowed its approach, then stopped completely. The tendrils of light pulsed with increasing speed, and strange patterns began to form where they connected with the void. Is that language? Jin asked, pointing to the shifting patterns. Hana felt a chill run down her spine as she recognized symbols similar to those in the Siraxian database. I think, she said slowly, we're about to find out what happened to them. For 7 days, the strange connection between Earth and the cosmic entity remained active. The quantum bridge created by the Siraxian device pulsed with energy as data flowed in both directions. Scientists worked around the clock to understand the information being exchanged, while military forces remained on high alert. On the 8th day, the darkness began to change. What had appeared as a featureless void now displayed complex patterns of light and energy. The tendrils connecting it to Earth's protective field grew brighter, and the quantum reading showed increasing harmony between the two systems. Hana barely left the command center during this time. She slept in short bursts on a cot in the corner, waking every few hours to check new data. Linguist Dae Song joined her team, working to translate the strange symbols flowing through the quantum bridge. I think I understand, Dae said suddenly on the morning of the 10th day. His eyes were wide with wonder as he studied the latest patterns. It's not just communicating, it's sharing its entire existence with us. Admiral Yu frowned. What exactly does that mean? The quantum field didn't destroy the entity. It established contact, Hana explained, the realization dawning on her as she reviewed Dae's findings. The cosmic presence that terrified us isn't a weapon or a natural disaster. It's a vast collective, consciousness ancient beyond comprehension. The United Earth Council convened an emergency session that afternoon. The council chamber, once filled with skepticism and fear, now buzzed with cautious excitement. Hana stood before the assembled leaders, presenting what they had learned. It's been searching for intelligent life, Hana explained to the stunned council members. But its nature made communication impossible with most species. When it approaches a world, its consciousness exists in multiple dimensions at once, causing what appears to us as destruction. So the disappearing outposts, began Minister Park. Were not destroyed, Hana confirmed. They were shifted into another dimensional state as the entity attempted to make contact. It doesn't understand our physical limitations. Day stepped forward. The Siraxians understood this. They developed a method of communion rather than conflict. Their device creates a buffer that allows safe interaction. And the Varathi? Asked one of the council members. The Varathi who refused to listen couldn't adapt when confronted, Day explained. Without the protective field and translation matrix, direct contact with the entity's consciousness is overwhelming to most physical beings. Are you saying the Siraxians survived? Admiral Yu asked. Hana shook her head. Not exactly. According to what we've learned, the Siraxians attempted to complete their device as the entity approached. They succeeded partially, which allowed them to upload a portion of their knowledge and consciousness into a form the entity could preserve. They exist now as part of its collective memory. Their final message makes sense now, Jin said quietly. They never even took us seriously. The Varathi didn't believe them, so the Siraxians left behind their technology and knowledge in hopes that future civilizations would listen. In the months that followed, humanity's understanding expanded dramatically. The entity remained in Earth's orbit, but its presence now brought knowledge rather than fear. Through the Siraxian device, Earth scientists learned about civilizations across the galaxy and technologies beyond their imagination. Research stations that had been consumed gradually reappeared as Earth scientists learned to navigate the dimensional shifts. The 17 researchers from Triton returned with incredible stories of what they had experienced while inside the entity's consciousness. Earth became a nexus point for galactic knowledge, establishing its place among the stars. The United Earth Council formed a new department dedicated to cosmic diplomacy, with Hana appointed as its first director. 1 year after first contact, Hana sat alone in her office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. On her desk sat a small replica of the original Siraxian data storage unit they had discovered on XC-394. She opened the official Earth historical database and began to type a new entry. The last words of the Siraxians were, "They never even took us seriously. Their extinction could have been ours. But we listened to their warning from across time, and that made all the difference." She paused, reflecting on all that had happened, then continued. Perhaps that's what they intended all along, to save those who would heed the lessons they paid for with their civilization. The entity they called the Great Communicator continues to share knowledge with us daily. We have learned that we are not alone in the universe, and that understanding often requires us to move beyond our fears and limitations. Hana looked up through her window at the night sky. The darkness between the stars no longer seemed empty or threatening. Instead, it held the promise of connection and discovery. The Siraxians couldn't complete their work in time to save themselves, she wrote in her final paragraph, but they ensured their knowledge would endure. Their legacy lives on through humanity's new path among the stars, a path we found because we chose to listen when others would not. She saved the entry and closed her computer. Tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new challenges, and new wonders from beyond the stars. But tonight, Hana simply watched the sky and whispered a thank you to the civilization that had reached across time to save them all. The end.